Good evening, everyone. And if you're checking the little clock on the bottom of your computer, you will see it's time for another We Set the Stage story. Today's story is very deep, soul-searching, and makes you think about the experiences you have been through in life that you can really say has shaped you. Brother Mustafa Saboor has experienced some life events that most people shouldn't go through, but as you live on, it gives you more self-empowerment. Please enjoy his story and the message behind it. Mustafa, time for you to take the stage.
My name is Mustafa. My story is like many stories across America. A young black man who ended up in prison, did a lot of time in prison. Once I got in, I had to find myself. So the first thing that really helped me find myself was guys would put books in your hand. And some of the books that were put in my hand were actually books that would enlighten you, give you an idea of how you ended up in this situation. And one of the books that impressed me the most was the autobiography of Malcolm X. When I read that book, it hit me like a ton of bricks because Malcolm, of course, had been where I was now going. I started my journey, and as I started my journey, I realized that most of my life, I had been someone who I really wasn't. I was a wannabe. And I remember stories, going back all the way to elementary school, where teachers would tell me, "You're not like the rest. You're different. You're smart." But I ignored those things because it wasn't popular to be smart. It wasn't popular to be square. And so, trying to impress others had led me down a path where I now found myself behind prison bars. And, once I realized that there's a better way to live, those books became my passion. Those books became an avenue for me to escape prison. I would sit down sometimes and read a book and it would take me beyond prison bars. And I experienced a little freedom, inside those books. And I remember reading a passage from the autobiography of Malcolm X where he said that when the lights would go out at night and he would be at a good part in the book where he didn't want to put the book down, he would find a corner somewhere where he could sit down and read. And I actually found myself doing that. And so from that, I decided that I wanted to educate myself because I was not even a high school dropout. I dropped out in the 8th grade, never even made it to high school. And so once I realized that this is where I wanted to go with my life, I decided that if anybody was going to rehabilitate me, it had to be me. No one was going to come and hold my hand and ask me, "Hey, get it together." So I actually started pursuing a GED. That was the first thing that I did to really try to, more or less get myself going on a track where I could rehabilitate myself. And that I had to have something more. Once I get back out in society, I had to have something that could keep me in society. And so it's almost like barbering fell in my hands. I had no passion, I had no desire to be a barber. And so a guy came to me one day and asked me to cut the back of his hair. And I cut the back of his hair. Once cutting the back of his hair, I decided that, hey man, this is something that maybe I could do. And long story short, I became a barber. And I pursued a barber license while in prison. I got my barber's license. And once I got home, I already had in my mind that I didn't want to go back to prison. And once I decided that I didn't want to go back, I now understood that whatever it was that I had went through in my life could now allow me to empower others. And so I decided that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to empower others because I had went down this trail. I enrolled in school to educate myself, further educate myself, because I know that I can't walk into a school and say, "Hey, I have a credential to teach on a level where there are people in there who are educated." I met a young lady, I got married, and unfortunately...
Alabama Avenue in Southeast Washington last April. A mother and her 4 children were riding in this Toyota Camry when, according to witnesses, the driver of a white speeding van crossed over the double yellow line. All 4 children in the Camry were seriously injured in the head-on collision, and it took D.C. paramedics 45 minutes to cut their mother out of the wreckage. 37-year-old Mary Wimbush died a short time later. The driver of the van later admitted he had purchased and consumed PCP before getting behind the wheel.
Nothing can explain in words what I saw the night I went into the hospital and my daughter was laying there on the table. It's like my whole life flashed in front of my eyes. I didn't quite understand it then, but I now understand now that this is a launching pad because there are many people who go through unfortunate tragedies in life and they lose themselves. I just want my story to be self-empowerment for others. Because today when I look at her, I know that at some point in her life, she's going to have to deal with what she went through. You know, when you move forward and you understand where your life has been versus where your life is now going, you understand how to put all these things together and use them as a tool. Being said, you know, it takes men who have experienced things in life where they can now use their experiences to help curb a lot of the crime in our communities, to repair family structure, repair family values. Somewhere this cycle has to end, and it can only end with people who decide that with their tragedies, they can utilize their tragedies to help rescue the next generation.
When someone you love passes away, it is tough to think about, but also talk about. Mustafa is a tough individual and has definitely pushed forward to make his life better, not only for himself, but also his daughter. I thank Mustafa for sharing the story with us and the lessons we can learn from it. Remember, stay tuned and subscribe for a new story every Wednesday, and stay updated through our social media sites. Have a great night, and see you all next week.